start, of course, with the abuse of our asylum system by migrants who are claiming, as if by magic, to be Christian just to stay in the country. 40 asylum seekers on the Bibi Stockholm are converting to Christianity, and that's almost 1 in 7 of the migrants on the barge. This comes after Abdul Azidi, who's the main suspect, of course, in last week's chemical attack case, was given asylum on the basis that he was a Christian and therefore could not be returned to Afghanistan. Can you see a pattern emerging anywhere? Well, I'm joined now in the studio by the Conservative MP for Ashfield, Lee Anderson. Lee, this is something you've been very outspoken on over the weekend. It would seem to a lot of people a flagrant abuse of the system, this backdoor to guaranteed right to remain by magically converting to Christianity. What's your take?
Well, Martin, it's been no secret I've been quite vocal on this over the past 3 to 4 years. The asylum system is being abused. I've always said this, even when that place over there sort of disagreed with me. I think more and more parliamentarians are actually seeing it for what it is now. It is being abused. And look, when somebody can go to church and hoodwink the local vicar into thinking they're all of a sudden a Christian, just to turn this country, that's absolutely shocking. And, one of the 10 commandments is thou shalt not lie. And it would appear that the church is complicit and encouraging these young men, these illegal migrants, to turn up at the congregation on a Sunday and pretend that they're Christians, again abusing our asylum system. But there is a silver cloud here, Martin, to this story, because I've got good news for these born-again Christians, that if you are a Christian, a genuine Christian, then Rwanda is, I think, 95-96% a Christian country. So they're waiting for you with open arms. Go there, resettle in a safe Christian country.
I don't think they saw that one coming.
Didn't see that coming.
I don't think that was part of the plan. But what is part of the plan, Lee, is there is a well-organised infrastructure, a network, I would even call it an industry, behind this. Alpha International is an organisation worth £16 million per year. They go into prisons, good work you might say, to talk to convicts and inmates, but increasingly they seem to see it as their work to talk to asylum seekers with a view to introducing them to their local congregation, with a view to them remain. You've been very vocal before about charities helping asylum seekers to get into Britain. Do you think this is starting to feel like a joined-up network of getting asylum seekers to the country and then keeping them in?
It is an old industry, Martin. I was on the beaches of Cali last year at the migrant camps, as you well know, and there was a charity there called Care for Cali. And they were encouraging these young men to the camps in France. They were feeding them, clothing them, giving them shelter. They was giving them new mobile phones, data. And the thing that shocked me the most was they've got little tents set up as schools teaching these young men how to speak English. They were getting them ready for this perilous journey across the channel, and then waiting for them once they got here in the hotels to walk them through the asylum process. Now, these people, these NGOs and the other charity that he mentioned there, these are as bad as the people smugglers. They're part of a multi-million-pound industry, and if we don't sort it out, I feel like a stuck record, Martin. My solution has always been, from day one, send them straight back to France the same day. If we'd have done that 3 years ago, this problem would have stopped now, but they keep coming and coming. And these do-gooders, the lefty lawyers, even the church is involved now. All they're doing is encouraging more and more young men to come to this country.
To play devil's advocate for a moment, back in the day, missionaries would go to far-flung countries with a view to passing on their enlightened values to overseas residents. Do you think there's something of that Justin Welby flowing downwards? Do you think they possess a more enlightened attitude and therefore they're passing that on? And people like you, people who disagree, you're the heathens.
Well, the problem with people like Justin Welby, now, I'm sure he's a good man who means well, but he doesn't live in the real world, Martin. He lives in a place called, in my neck of the woods, they'd probably say Cloud Cuckoo Land, where he has no idea what the actual people of this great country think. They are sick to death have seen this nonsense on a daily basis. The first job of a government, of a country, of the state, is to protect our borders. And these young men are coming in. We've seen the horrible crimes earlier, reported on GB News about this illegal migrant that claimed asylum through Christianity, went on to commit some horrible crimes. And people like Justin Welby, they sit there in their ivory towers, thinking they're of a higher being, and thinking that they're doing good in this community. And we're not. What we're doing, Martin, it's important to say this, actually slowly we're sort of giving our country away to different cultures, different backgrounds, young men coming in that don't respect our values, they don't respect our heritage, our culture, certainly don't respect women. We've seen that recently.
And when we see things go wrong, and we're seeing, unfortunately, more and more cases where things are going wrong. We saw the case of Abdelaziz, the chief suspect in this grotesque chemical attack, converted to Christianity.
Yeah.
Liverpool suicide bomber, he blew up
Yeah.
that taxi outside
Yeah.
the women's wing, the maternity ward, converted to Christianity. When we see incidents like this, Lee, do you think there's a case to be made that these bleeding hearts that are helping this process, they've got blood on their hands?
Oh, of course they have. I mean, these people are, they're seeing the world through rose-tinted glasses, thinking that every single young man that arrives in the back of a lorry or on a boat are God-fearing people that's fleeing war or persecution, but they're not, Martin. I mean, from day one, I have said, because I spoke to these young men in the camps, they are economic migrants, and the reason we were getting so many Albanians over at one time, they were coming on small boats, Martin, paying up to £5,000, I think it is, to get here from Albania, when they could have got on a Wizz Air flight for 28 quid from Tirana straight into Luton. Now, there's a reason they were coming on small boats, is because they didn't want to produce their passport or any documents or any visa, because at that point we know who they are, where they're from, and what they've been up to in the past.
Yeah. When you talked earlier, a minute ago, about you see the country slipping away.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? You care to elaborate? A lot of people say the same thing, but
So I was speaking to people at the weekend, and one person suggested to me that we're sort of giving the country away. And when you think about it, I found it very hard to disagree with that person, because, like I said, there's thousands of people coming in, both legally and illegally, from different cultures. And the ones that are coming on the small boats especially are coming from cultures where they don't respect our way of life. They don't even like our way of life. They certainly don't respect the way we treat our women and our children and everything else that goes in this great society of ours. And slowly but surely, people are waking up in this country and think to themselves, my goodness, what we're doing. This is not the country I was brought up in. And I'm quite nostalgic, Martin. I think to my childhood in the 70s in Ashfield, growing up, and I like that place. It got its problems, got a little bit of poverty and stuff like that. But I like that place. I like that place, which respected our history, which respected our culture, that sat up and stood up, and sang the national anthem and waved the flag, during celebrations, stuff like that. I just feel, and I'm sure there's many people around the country feel exactly the same way as me, that I want to bring that back.
A lot of people say, of course, mass legal and illegal migration has happened on the Conservative Party's watch.
It has. It's happened on everybody's watch. There's no excuse for any political party in this country. Election after election, we keep saying we're going to control immigration, and we don't. And some people over there will say, well, it's good for the economy. It's not good for the economy, Martin. If you bring more people in, yes, we'll make more stuff. But I always taught, basic economics is the way that you become more productive as a business and ultimately a country is if you produce more with less people. That's just simple. That's quite basic. And tell that to the people in Ashfield who's waiting for a doctor's appointment or a dental appointment, or who's just had that knee operation cancelled for the second time. They won't agree with that.
Do you think part of the problem, Lee, is this kind of divorce from reality that a lot of senior parliamentarians, lawyers might have? For example, chances are they don't live in an area where they can't get a GP appointment, they can't get a dentist appointment, a school place, and it's not suppressing their wages if they're a plasterer or a bricklayer. Yeah. There's a huge disconnect between the average working class person out there and the people running the country.
It's the same as we just spoke about, Martin, with the Archbishop of Canterbury. They do not live in the real world. I work in that place over there, and I'm sure, that a lot of them MPs in there, of all parties, don't live in the real world. They don't live on that terrace street in Ashfield. They don't see the people queuing up at the doctors in the morning or at the chemist. They don't see the people struggling, to get their children into the right school. They don't see the people, struggling to get that doctor's appointment. They don't see all these things, They see, and they don't see the problems we've got with local social services and young people's service and stuff like that, because it's okay such as me, and I'm sure it's okay for you, we're on a decent salary, we get a decent wage. You know, if I can't get a dental appointment, I can go to a private dentist, you know. If I've got something, an emergency operation I need, I could probably afford to have it done with my money I've got, you know, tucked away, because I earn decent money. But the vast majority of the constituents in my area aren't fortunate like that. So this is, who lies awake at night worrying to pay the gas bill or the electric bill, or can they afford to put 20 quid's worth of diesel in the car? It's not them over there, it's the people that live on my street.
Now, Lee, to finish, if we don't get a grip on this situation of uncontrolled immigration, no right to deport, a Labour Party coming, if we don't get a grip on the situation, you mentioned about our country changing, where do you think the country is heading?
Well, this is the problem, you see. As bad as it is at the moment, Martin, and it is bad, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, if the Labour Party do get in, they've already made some silly announcements recently about not deporting people who appear to be under the age of 18. Now, we've seen this before with some of these dodgy asylum seekers. They've got beards down here, no teeth, and bald, and they're claiming to be 15-year-old. Absolute nonsense, and that has to go through some sort of process. So I do fear for the country a lot under a Labour government. Like I say, we've not been brilliant at it, but we've got policies in place. Hopefully the Rwanda scheme will work. You know, that place all the time has been against us. The House of Lords now are sort of messing about with the Rwanda bill. We've got to do it, Martin, for the sake of this country and the sake of our children. OK, Lee Anderson, Conservative MP for Ashfield, thank you with your forthright opinions as ever.